In this lesson, we're going to look at the first English settlement of Jamestown, Virginia, and we're going to explore corporations. Here's our first class discussion. If you were going to found a company, what do you value? What type of people do you need? What type of people usually head modern businesses? What are their tastes and preferences? Pause the video and have a good discussion about that. Our next question for class discussion is, if you were going to establish a new society in the wilderness, what would you need? What types of people make successful frontiersmen and frontierswomen? What are their tastes and preferences? Pause the video. And then let's make some predictions. What would happen if we took the people who were good at business and put them into the wilderness? That's basically Jamestown in a nutshell. Jamestown basically came up with the brilliant idea of taking aristocrats who were, maybe they weren't even necessarily good at business, but they were rich people, and they decided that they're going to try to make their living in the New World by looking for gold. And things are, as you can guess, not going to go too well. So what was the goal of Jamestown? Very simply, it was money. And what was the method? The joint stock company. These are much like modern corporations. So how did joint stock companies work? First, investors are going to pool their money together. Second, that money is going to fund the colony. And lastly, the investors will split any of the profits based on how many shares that they bought originally. So the more shares that you bought originally, the more money you can make. So our inquiry question is, what is so appealing about being an investor in a corporation? And our hints: how is investing in a corporation better than working in a company? How is it better than owning your own company? Why is a corporation in one regard better than just owning your own company? So advertising to get advertising to get colonists, which are basically the employees. There's a link below that you can go to. So I want you to describe this McDonald's advertisement for employees with as much detail as possible. And what are corporations' goals with advertising, and what are corporations' methods? Look at this link for McDonald's employees, and is it accurate? Is it inaccurate? And what are corporations' goals with advertising to get employees, and what are their methods? So, just like modern day corporations advertise, joint stock corporations like the Jamestown Corporation also advertised. So, what is the message of this ad? How is it similar to the modern one you just saw? Take your time and pause the video. So, a class discussion with corporate advertising. What tactics are acceptable for corporations to utilize when they advertise to get employees or to sell products? What methods or tactics are unacceptable, and why? Where should the lines be drawn? Provide examples from modern ads if possible. And then after you've had that discussion, go back. Was this ad acceptable? Was this one acceptable? Was the McDonald's one acceptable or not, and why? Or somewhere in the middle, and why? And was this ad for Jamestown acceptable or not, and why? Where are the lines with either joint stock companies back in the day in Jamestown or now? What do you think corporations should be able to do, and what should they not be able to do in their advertisements? All right, so what's the settlement site Jamestown decided? It was the Chesapeake Bay. Look at this overview. What are you looking at? What are the advantages of settling here and the disadvantages? Do you think this was going to go well for them if they settled in this area? Do you think this is going to go well or not, and why? Try to make a prediction. All right, and this is the settlement that they decided to build. What are you looking at? What advantages did the colonist structure provide, and disadvantages? All right, this is what they built. Is this what you'd expect to see in a modern day, or sorry, if you're trying to build a new society in the wilderness, would you have built this particular structure or not? Think about what these are in the corners. Think about the size of the structure they built. Do you think that'd be suitable for living in the New World? Think about these walls here. Are those suitable? What would those be good for? What would those maybe not be so good for? Alright, so as you might be able to tell, the Jamestown colonists did not do a very good job in what they built and where they decided to live. And almost immediately you have this period in Jamestown history called the Starving Time. Alright, most of the original colonists died. And why? First, they were looking for gold rather than farming. And you might know about Virginia, there's not a lot, if any, gold in Virginia. And when you land in the wilderness, the first thing you need to do is, I don't know, maybe look for fresh water or make fire or go hunting for animals or begin to farm. And instead, they were looking for something that didn't exist. And even if they found it, even if they found lots of gold, they still probably would have died because gold doesn't have very many uses in the wild. You can't really spend it on anything. So that's not going to work very well. So the first reason why most colonists died is they were looking for gold rather than farming. The second reason they're going to die is that swamp caused disease. Where they decided to settle, let's go back here to the Chesapeake Bay. Where they decided to settle, this is actually pretty much a swamp. It might not look like that. It might meet your stereotype of a swamp, like a Halloween swamp, but it is. There's just a ton of mosquitoes in this area, and those mosquitoes are going to cause malaria and a ton of sickness. This water isn't particularly fresh, and while this area may be good for defense, it is not going to be good for actually living. So a lot of people are going to get very sick and die very quickly. It's incredibly hot. There's a lot of bugs that can kill you. They chose their site to live very poorly. So let's go back. First of all, again, most colonists died looking for gold rather than actually doing something productive. And second, because swamp caused disease. And the last reason is because of Native American attacks. The colonists did not do a good job establishing relations with their Native American neighbors, and so they very much provoke them into attacking them. All right, so how do we go about saving the colony? A man named John Smith very famously said he saved the colony by saying, "He who shall not work shall not eat." And that leads us to a class discussion. All right, first of all, some parents will stop feeding their children if they do not do their work. For example, some parents will say, if you didn't do your homework, you'll go to bed you'll go to bed hungry without eating dinner. If you didn't do your chores, I'm not going to feed you dinner. Do you think this is good parenting or is this bad parenting? Why? If you were a parent, would you do this yourself? Is this a good idea or a bad idea or not, and why? Go ahead and pause the video. And the second question I have for you is: was John Smith's method too extreme or not, and why? Do you think John Smith was kind of a hero, or do you think he was kind of a villain? And why do you think that? And then you can pause the video after this, but the other question I want to ask is, are these two questions similar or different? If you have different answers between one and two, why do you have different answers? Is one, a similar situation to the other, or are they more similar, or are they more different? All right, so tobacco. James Rolfe ultimately saved, after the colonists started working because of John Smith, James Rolfe finally made Jamestown profitable and ultimately sustainable by planting cash crops. And ironically, these are crops that you sell rather than you eat. So ironically, they ended up making a lot of money through by growing things that you couldn't eat, and then buying food and supplies elsewhere. So our class discussion is that tobacco in the 17th century was significantly more potent, addictive, and deadly than how it's sold in stores today. Today, you typically have a filter in your cigarette, so it's not as potent as it was back then. The question is, was Rolfe more of a hero for saving the colony or a villain for making Europeans addicted to tobacco, and why? Was he more of a hero or more of a villain? So pause the video and ask and debate that question. And then the second question I have for you is, what is the line for what corporations should and should not be able to sell to consumers today? Use real world examples if possible. For example, should they be able to sell unhealthy food? How about faulty cars that kill people? How about cigarettes? How about even hard drugs? I know it's currently illegal, but should that be legal for corporations to sell any of these things? What do you think? All right, and finally, here's your assignment. Jamestown was the first permanent English colony in the New World. It was structured as a joint stock company. We're going to write two different paragraphs. Okay, paragraph 1, 5 to 7 sentences. Would Jamestown have been better or worse off if it was not formed as a joint stock company? All right, so Jamestown was formed as a joint stock company. Their whole, their whole structure was a corporation, essentially a modern day corporation. Would they have been better off if they were formed as a corporation like they were, or be better off if they weren't? And why? Explain how Jamestown's structure as a joint stock company helped and hurt the colony in your answer. Right, that's paragraph one, 5 to 7 sentences. Paragraph two is, are modern day corporations more good or more evil, and why? Provide real world examples.